Welcome back to the Group Practice Accelerator podcast, brought to you by Polaris Healthcare Partners, where we leverage decades of healthcare and business experience to drive growth in successful group practices just like yours. If you're a healthcare entrepreneur and you're interested in building, scaling, or exiting your group practice, you've found not only the industry's leading resource for business education, but a team of trusted advisors dedicated to helping you achieve and exceed your goals. In short, the team at Polaris creates clarity, confidence, and results. I'm your host, Jamie Falash, and the Group Practice Accelerator podcast is on the air. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in today because I really think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Oftentimes we get so caught up in the mechanics of doing what we do, we forget why we're doing it. And I think that's fair to say that this happens to all of us, whether you're still in school or you're an associate just starting out or an owner navigating their way toward a dream or a vision you've always had. I mean, it's 100% a journey, and especially when we factor in the economy. So today, we're going to pull you back to that purpose and take time to refocus not only on the mindset, but the strategy as well, the strategy behind getting where you want it to be, and even talk about how the economy plays into our strategies. And who better to walk us down that path than Polaris' own partnership and equity solutions executive, Mark Flock. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back, Jamie.
Well, it's good to have you here. So I'm going to jump right in because I know we have a lot to cover today and I want to hear your perspectives. I know that you hear a lot from our clients on what's going on in their offices, a lot of different perspectives. So you also have a lot of conversations with associates that are looking to become partners in a business. Everybody wants to be an owner ultimately, right? Can you share a little about where the mindset is with dentists with respect to the economy currently, and then maybe how they should be viewing their business moving forward? I know there's a lot happening in the economy and there's some new reports out. So I'll let you start with that and I'll stop talking.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jamie. And I'll maybe take a step back since it's a pretty heady one that's probably have can go a lot of different paths for sure. So
No.
I think, is maybe kind of taking a step back and understanding, why you all went in the field of dentistry versus medicine. There could be a handful of reasons, maybe some of the high level ones may be better quality of life. You wanted to be able to work, 3 to 5 days a week with a flexible schedule and hours versus potentially 12-hour days or shifts or 7 to 7 shifts, things like that.
Right.
If you're working in ER, I mean, it's drastically different in the dental space than some of the medical colleagues that you have. So that was probably often a choice, in some cases. But a lot of times I feel like dentists wanted to build wealth by either becoming an owner or and nowadays, which is pretty common, joining a growing group practice. So it's definitely a industry within the healthcare space where you can absolutely do that. And then regardless of, let's say, your specialty, you want to provide superior clinical care for your patients. I think that's important. You didn't get into the healthcare field. You didn't even go into dentistry to provide subpar clinical care or patient experience. You wanted to provide the high end. And that's something you can absolutely do and craft in the dental space. And dentistry is also a growing subset within the medical side of things as well. I mean, there's a ton of growth ahead. There's statistics out there where there's just a higher per capita need in upcoming years compared to the current state. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. So I think that's something just that there's a long runway for dentists in the dental space. And I'm very optimistic on that.
That's a good point. There's a lot of data to support that it is, there is a lot of runway. And you're right, it is definitely a different lifestyle than medical. And it's a very different choice, but so much opportunity tied to it as versus other fields. And medicine obviously has its own merits and its own lifestyle that goes with it. And that's for some, but dentistry gets my vote in any case.
And then there's a lot of, medical peers out there that do the private practice space too as well. I mean, optometry, ophthalmology, dermatology, orthopedics, just to name a few of probably 3 handfuls that can also be private practice owners, own their own practice. There's consolidation in those spaces as well. It's just different. Its timing's different and different expectations, but still in the healthcare field. And Jamie, recently I saw as an ADA Health Policy Institute came out with a report, which I thought was pretty interesting. Maybe it was a couple weeks ago. There's a video associated with it, so I can provide that link if anyone wants to refer to that you can put on the podcast. It's really just kind of around the state of the U.S. dental economy from Q2 of 2025. It kind of evolves around the dentist confidence level in the overall economy, and really noting that's 2 declining quarters, quarter over quarter, is almost at an all-time low point for dentists, which is it's kind of I'm not surprised just with where the economy is today, but as a whole, there's some skepticism moving forward. So what I found interesting with that article, though, if you keep listening to it, is that the top 5 reasons that the people that were skeptics or pessimistic in the overall economy with respect to the dentist who filled out the survey and everything gave the same 5 reasons essentially as the minority that were actually optimistic and the economy and things moving forward,
Interesting.
which was interesting. And that kind of will lead me to maybe where I'll kind of maybe share my next point. What I hear with clients is that, a lot of these issues resolve around, keeping up with increasing costs. Absolute something I hear on a regular basis. It's keeping up with retaining staff is another big one. The consolidation providing concerns. The economy as a whole is questionable. And even the world, I guess, is still kind of unstable at this point. All fair things to be concerned about, in my opinion. I think here, what this was telling me and what I've experienced firsthand with just dealing with doctors creating partnerships and growing group practices is that there's a group of your peers out there that's essentially one side is lacking confidence, one side is confident. They're giving the same reasons. So it really comes down to mindset.
It sure
Jamie,
does.
I think, and why certain group practices are able to prevail and succeed through difficult times versus ones that may just try to tread water and worry about everything that's going around them, which is probably all valid reasons. But you have a choice as a business owner to take a step forward, try something different, be optimistic. And it doesn't matter what stage of the business you're in. Doesn't matter what size of your business is, how profitable your business is, what your growth aspiration is. And it comes down to your leadership style a lot of times. And that transcending to your entire staff. And if you think about it, if you're pessimistic and you're always grumbling about the negative things that are going on, that's all that your staff hears. That's all that your patients may hear, unfortunately, too, as well. That's going to affect everyone. Do you want to be around someone like that? Or would you rather be around someone who's optimistic? Oh, I'm actually excited for the opportunity. We had many clients back during COVID that actually came out of COVID very successful because they had a plan in place. They were optimistic. They started doing a few things a little bit differently, and they planned ahead for times like that. And they pushed forward, and their teams helped them to do so. So I think it's very important to really view what is your mindset, because that is something you can absolutely control, whereas the environment around you, you cannot. I just want to be clear. So it's kind of maybe a little more philosophical in the answer, but there's a saying out there: control what you can control, and I absolutely believe that 100%. And I think that's something that's important for business owners to realize is that there's certain things they can control, and that's an easy one. It's not always easy to be optimistic, but that is something that you can change overnight.
Right.
Whereas a business, you cannot. Yeah.
We can get a little philosophical on this show. We can do that. Honestly, it is about mindset, and that can translate into every aspect of your life. You can be that dark cloud and bring the pessimism everywhere you go, or you can see the opportunity. It's not the glass full or glass half empty. The glass is refillable, my friend. So let's see what we can do with it. What do you want to fill it with? A lot of options to consider there. So that's
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So
go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, if I'm an owner and I'm seeing all this data, I've decided I'm going to be optimistic about it. What do I want to be asking myself? What kind of opportunities should I be looking at?
It's a great question. So I think I'll answer your question, Jamie, with maybe a handful of questions that I sometimes ask clients, or if not, they should be asking themselves.
Okay.
As they're going through moments like this, or just in general, as you're running a business and you're owning a group, or you're wanting to grow or scale, or just get through the times that we're in. There's a lot of things that I think you need to be considering, and it's extremely important from an ownership lens. And then maybe later on with the conversations that I talk to with associates, there's a different lens, associated with that. It's different, the issues they're feeling versus the issues that owners are feeling. So
sure. I
guess for you all that are entrepreneurs and own your own practice, are you providing a better quality of life for yourself, but also one for your team? Because you're owning the business, are you providing a better quality of life for your team? And I think that's important. And that's not just from an economic standpoint. Like everyone usually jumps with answering that question, like, oh, I pay them really well. Like, okay, that's
not
great.
Always
that's not always about pay, especially with younger generations getting in the workforce. Sometimes it's flexibility in the work schedule. It's the ability, if they're maybe administrative, to work from home. I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just saying, like, are you creating a better quality of life for your team? And that's,
Yeah.
like I said, economics always come first, but it could also be, do they enjoy coming to work every single day? I know most people say they don't enjoy going to work, but are you building an environment where they're excited to come see their peers, work with their peers, help your patients, work with you? They see you as a leader. They look up to you. There might be, do you have maybe team building type of activities that you offer to kind of grow that camaraderie together? Do they enjoy being part of the team? And do they respect you as an owner? And do they respect their peers as well?
It's all about
And
your
it's,
mindset. What are you bringing every day to the office, to the group? Your attitude matters.
and that goes back to the mindset thing, I guess, which is kind of, I guess, going to be the theme of this podcast from my end. And then also, are you allowing your team to build wealth? This kind of goes hand in hand with the first one, maybe a quality of life. This is maybe more of the economic side of things. Whether that's personally through their employment, it could be a very, I would say, robust employment agreement you have with maybe some of your staff members. I'm not necessarily talking about equity, which it absolutely can include equity as part of that for maybe your associates or some of your C-suite individuals, if you have those. Are you giving them an opportunity to become partners in business once it's merited for certain people? Are they able to just, have a good employment? Do you have a 401k plan? What do your benefits look like? Things like that. I'm not saying choose the most expensive top tier plan, but some of those things do matter. That's something I think we do well here at Polaris. Is, I wouldn't call it the fringe benefits, but with respect to taking care of this, taking care of that. So we don't have to
Yes.
worry about that as employees, and we can just do our job and take care of our clients
Yeah,
when it comes to
exactly.
benefits and just things like that. Yeah.
The perks that you provide, although maybe not cash, can still be very valuable perks to the lifestyle of your employees. I mean, team building is not a pizza party. It's just not. I mean, hey, I'm all about pizza, but you really have to provide value to them, and how does it make their life better?
Absolutely. I mean, it could be fun. It could be business. It could take a lot of different forms. It's not
Sure.
necessarily once a week type of thing. I don't recommend that at all, but it's something that I think people oftentimes may look forward to. You want them to be excited about it. Spend time
Yeah.
with Joe and Sally and Nancy and whoever else. Like, this is a time to get out and maybe enjoy just little things like that. Once again, I'm not advocating to do that often, but what are you doing differently? What are you doing to spark interest with your team? Because that's what builds, I'd say, a stronger tether to why they will want to stay with you long term, because a lot of other companies and practices may or may not be doing those things, and good people know good people. So if you have a staff that enjoys working for you, they're going to start talking to their friends at other practices or previous jobs they came for. It's like, you need to come work for us. This is what
Mhm.
we do. Like, that's an easy recruiting tool, in my
Oh,
opinion, as you're bringing
absolutely.
people on.
Yeah, your best networking tool are your current employees. So why not leverage that when it comes to, building your staff, building your team? And I'll also add, Mark, that if your finger is not on the pulse of what's happening with your team, even on the micro level per practice, whether you're 3 locations or 100 locations, you're going to struggle. You have to know what's going on in those locations. You need to know the attitudes. You need to know how people are operating, because if they're not happy, it's going to be evidenced in your P&L at some point.
And you kind of, I wasn't going to go down this route, but you kind of mentioned something there, Jamie. Streamlined operations is extremely important for that very reason. You know what to expect when, you know who's doing it, they know how to complete it. It makes things easier for them. It also makes things much easier for you. So when something goes
Absolutely.
wrong and there's an outlier, you know exactly where to pinpoint it and why it went wrong and who didn't do what, unfortunately, and have a conversation, educational conversation on how they could fix it moving forward, right?
Yeah,
And how they could not repeat that mistake maybe over again, or that
sure.
patient experience that was negative. Uh,
SOPs, Mark, I love
yep.
them.
Yeah.
I won't make you go down a rabbit hole with that. I'll let you continue on your question.
Well, that's the whole other thing probably for Aiden's. I know he really goes into the SOP side on the operations
Oh,
things.
yeah.
I see that when I'm getting into partnership situations where I wasn't aware of this. Okay, well, if there's an SOP, it'd be pretty black and white, especially on an onboarding side of things with new
Yeah.
team members. So,
Onboarding, clinical
uh,
procedures, operations, you name it. There's very rarely a situation where you can't plug in a how to.
And then if you can catch that early on, right out of the gate when they're coming on, it's basically just systematic. It's expected. It's the habit from day one versus if you're waiting 3 years to implement something with people that have created a way of doing things that's incorrect, it's almost impossible to get everyone on board, unfortunately. So the sooner you can start something like that's great. That was like, I wasn't expecting to go down that path, but that's fine.
Off on our tangents. It's okay.
Yeah. Another big one that question I see, Jamie, is, I'll ask you all the question, what is the mission of your business? And it's a very simple question. I would expect doctors to have an answer probably off the tip of their tongue, but if you don't have one, that's fine, but you need to understand what the mission is of your business. That kind of goes back to your vision of why you started a practice, your first office, or one of many, or just one of one at this point. I usually would follow up and say, have you fulfilled that mission yet? Or if not, where are you tracking towards and fulfilling that personally?
Yeah.
And then lastly, where does your team understand that mission for the practice or for the business? And are they bought into it as well? That's
And has
extremely
it
important.
changed? I mean, has it changed and how often and why?
There's not an issue if it's changed, but you need to make sure everyone's on the same boat. Because if you have 50 employees all rowing in the same boat in the same direction, it makes your life 10 times easier than it's just you rowing by yourself with a boat full of 51 people. So I'm going to hate to say this. Yeah, no, it just sounds terrible. Even if you got a motor, yes. So and then I think what kind of goes in line with that, it goes maybe one more on the personal side. What is kind of I would say the inner purpose that drove you to start your business and become an entrepreneur? It's just not made for everyone. You don't just get out of school and say, I'm going to start a business tomorrow. I mean, some people might say that, but you had an interest in becoming an entrepreneur. And is that purpose, to your point earlier, Jamie, is that purpose still the same or has it evolved? Will it continue to evolve? The answer is yes, most likely.
Yeah,
So,
and it should, because I mean, we evolve as people, and your purpose, what drove you to start that business in the first place, could be as varied as why you chose a career in dentistry over medical. What kind of lifestyle are you looking to achieve? And your purpose should come back to an answer that you could provide before all those team members were even on board. What was your purpose before you started? I think it's important to come back to that every once in a while. It's fine if it's changed. It can evolve over time, but what was your original purpose and what drove you to get there?
that's a great point, Jamie. So my previous two kind of things that I mentioned, it's as you're working towards your mission and your inner purpose, I should say, what are the things that are detracting you from accomplishing one or the other, or both for that matter? There's things like we just mentioned, the economy. We just mentioned pessimism, and then certain things and skepticism and things like that. They're probably throwing you off track. So it's kind of getting back to the inner purpose of why you started what you started. What is your mission? Where are you at in that process? What's holding you back at this point? And start knocking those walls down to continue proceeding forward. And then sometimes it's, like I said, it's staff. I constantly have a revolving door of associates or a revolving door of maybe hygienists if you're on the GP side of things, which is pretty common. It's been common for the last few years, unfortunately. But if you're struggling for good associates, what are you doing differently, to separate yourself and create an opportunity that's different or even superior from all your peers in the market? Because if you're just doing the same thing over and over, to my understanding, that's the definition of insanity if you're expecting a different result. So
Pretty sure that's the
it's just
official definition.
Yeah, it's probably in Webster's dictionary somewhere, but
Yes,
a lot of doctors come to me and say, every year I lose one or I do this. What are you doing differently? Well, I increased my pay a little bit or something like that. Well, that's one of many things. You're not really addressing the issue and you're not really separating yourself apart, because guess what? All the other peers besides you can do the same thing, and you lose that person because they raise theirs by 1 or 2%.
yeah,
It's
and I
like,
think that
what are you doing differently outside of that? Yeah.
Right. I think that the answer to, are you detracting away from your mission vision, that requires a little bit of self-reflection. So we're going to get philosophical again.
Yeah.
You need to spend some time thinking about you, the common denominator. That doesn't mean it's in a negative way whatsoever, but your business is about what you wanted from the start. So what changes can you implement?
Yeah, I think it kind of comes down to a few things that I see, and it's usually a lack thereof, Jamie, with respect to that question, and it's organization and planning. So, and that kind of leads back to the things I mentioned, what is your mission? What is your vision? What is your inner purpose? And, are you on track or are you off? So if you're not organized and you don't know where your business is today, where it was yesterday, where you want it to be tomorrow, then you can't really plan for what's happening. You're reacting reactively to everything going on. And that's not a business that's going to go anywhere far. You may move forward, but you're not going to get to where you want to in a faster state by doing so. So you have to be organized, you have to be proactive, and you have to plan ahead and be prepared for all those moments. In line with that, it goes back to the initial conversation we had, mindset and optimism. So as you're organizing, as you're planning, as you're trying to grow, what is your mindset? And if you ever get off track, what is your plan to react and get back on track? And what are those expectations? So, I mean, that's an optimistic viewpoint versus saying, oh, well, this happened to me and I'm upset. I'm just going to sit here and dwell on it for, a month or two. Well, at that point, you've lost another $100,000 in revenue, potentially, depending on your size, and you're even farther in the hole. If you can react quickly because you had a plan, you had organized, and you have a team that will jump. If you say, hey, I want to jump just a foot high. I just want not off a cliff or anything, just to jump high, like just a foot high, jump with me. And they take off and do that for you. You feel comfortable. It gives you a breath of fresh air that you have everyone on the same page as you and you can move forward. But you need a team to do so. You can't do it all by yourself.
No, you can't. And we're talking a lot about mission and vision and purpose. But what about something solid? One thing that we need to make sure that we mention here is, do you have a plan? A lot of docs haven't gotten to that point, and that's okay, but you do need to engage the right people, the right advisors to walk you through a really solid plan for the next 5 to 10 years. Get it on paper. Yes, it can change, but it'll really help you stay on track with that mission, vision, and purpose that you had in the first place. You have to have a strategic plan. Can't stress it enough.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, Jamie, because I have a couple clients right now that I'm working on equity models for to get rolled out later this year. That's going to help put everything in place for early next year. I'd say 2 or 3 of them also are going through our capital raise process, which, go through financial institutions and raising capital and getting the right lender for your growth for the long term. A business plan is needed. And you'd be surprised how many of those clients we're helping to work through that process for the first time, whether that's 2 years into ownership or 15 years into ownership. Yeah. That goes back to my organization and planning aspects of things. So that's something that's going to be, it's not going to be a static document, but it's something you can revert back to and say, okay, where was I 5 years ago when I created this thing? And where am I today? Where do I want to be? I need to update these things. This is going to be a living, breathing document I'm going to add things to, whether it's around marketing, whether it's around growth, whether it's acquisition targets, de novo targets, and things like that. So it's a really good process that we take clients through, especially on the capital raise process, or reach out to us. And DeWalker does a lot of those. The owner in our company can help kind of craft that, or at least point you in the right direction in a lot of areas. So yeah, that's important. You brought that up, so I figured that was a good time for the business plan aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not to, call anyone out or shame anybody. Oh, you don't have your business plan, but now's the time. So you're a lot more prepared to ride these economic waves and get through them in a much more optimistic lens when you have a plan in place. So it's just something that you need to do for yourself. It is definitely worth it for your peace of mind and for your cash flow. And that's kind of critical, right? So, Mark, I asked you earlier in the call about looking at the economy through the owner's lens. Can we walk through that a little bit from an associate's perspective? Because that's going to be completely different.
Yeah, it's about 80% different if I had to put a number on it. So, for the associates listening to the call, or you may be thinking about your associates and trying to get on their page from what I see. And it's more so from my experience and working with a lot of associates. You got to think about it. Every time I'm doing a partnership solution model, there might be 1 to 4 current owners, depending on the size of the business. And there's always going to be 1 to maybe 20 some associate partners. So I'm talking to a lot of associates in addition to just the owners that I work with. And I can completely understand why, the associates, or you all, if you're an associate, may be concerned around the state of the dental economy, because it's very different than it was maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And, if you're earlier in your career, you probably have not experienced the ups and downs like a lot of the business owners and practice owners have on this call, which have experienced for the last 10 to 15 years. So you're kind of seeing the current state and you're like, whoa, what is going on? So
Yeah, it's a
it's
little
not,
different
it's not
landscape
the,
these days.
yeah, and there's a lot of opportunity, people looking to hire, but you're also weighing the opportunity. Is this the right practice for me? So you all probably come out of dental school with the average student loan debt of well over 250,000 in education debt. So I think there's statistics, roughly 80% of students graduating dental school have some level of student loan debt. Of that 80%, it's close to $300,000. That can be a staggering number when you're also going back to the initial point on dental school, because you want to try to create an opportunity for wealth, maybe business ownership is one of them. Well, you have $250,000, $300,000 student loan debt. You're looking to buy a home. Oh, by the way, those home prices are way different than they were 10 years ago as well. Want to buy a car too as well. You're also maybe trying to find an employer that has the ability to grow your skill set, make you the most capable dentist out there so you can then maybe transfer to another opportunity or use that skill set to be a business owner of your own. And you also want to make good money. That's kind of like the general theme of seeing students coming out of school. That can be overwhelming when you have $300,000 student loan debt. You might have a $600,000 home mortgage. You might also have a $60,000 car, not including credit card debt, or maybe even a spouse who may also went through medical school or dental school as well, which is not too uncommon in the dental space to see a lot of spouses that are in that. So it's a lot, I'd have to say. So you most likely joined a private practice because you saw that that is where a lot of your peers were going. That was kind of the norm 10 years ago. If when you're going into school, there's less group practices then versus joining a corporate group, because that's what you preferred. You want to provide that patient care. You assumed that patient care was better in a private practice. But then you kind of realized there wasn't as much opportunity potentially for advancement or career growth, or maybe continue education, be self-funded out of your own pocket, things like that. So you wanted that clinical coaching aspect. That was important to you. You wanted to master your craft and you want that mentorship versus just being on an island on your own, which is what you may have thought a corporate group would give you. Not always the case. So I think that's kind of what the associate's feeling, at this point in time, a little confused because as we all know, there's a lot of small group practices out there that are, you kind of have the feel of a larger group practice, but you provide the private kind of single location feel. There's a lot of them out there. A lot of people don't realize that. And that's kind of the space that Polaris plays in and works with our clients on. It doesn't have to be you come out of school, you have to start your own practice. You can absolutely do that. There's a ton of those coming online still to this day, contrary to what people think, all the corporate dental groups are scooping up all the practices. Well, there's a lot of people graduating dental school still, and they're starting up businesses. So there's new ones coming online as ones are being sold. So it's not a full consolidation. Yes, exactly. So, but they're also, associates are looking for a better quality of life for them and their loved ones. That goes back to that initial thing. That hasn't changed a lot of times. But they're also looking for partnership more times than not. And they're asking the question, or am I able to accomplish all those things with where I'm at today? And if the question's no, then I'd ask why. Are they still able or want to make $400,000 as well as potentially being a practice owner? What does that look like with where they are today? Those are questions they're asking themselves because they're looking at a big picture. Yes, they're very concerned around income and their pay rate. I'm not going to change that. So, but they're looking ahead.
The initial thought of most associates, and obviously their whys are going to change over time. But that amount of debt coming out of school can be scary.
Yep, and a lot of them have questions around: is there a clear path for where they are today?
Yeah.
For partnership potentially. A lot of those questions aren't asked either by the associate or even the owner. And that's where I think there's a huge gap between what they think is reality versus the potential. Once again, optimistic versus maybe pessimistic. If the question's not asked, you don't know the answer.
No.
So you may miss out on opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity there, I think.
Those are really critical questions to ask up front. If you have any intention of being an owner, you should be asking that as an associate very early in the process. If it's not an option, then there are plenty of docs that will offer an equity solution.
Absolutely, especially with corporate dentistry now, an opportunity. There's a lot of private equity firms and strategic DSOs that are offering, rolled equity and things like that, where they can kind of get a piece of the pie now and then get a piece of the pie later and just things like that. So there's opportunity out there. But when go through partnership situations and I'm talking to the owners and I'm talking to the associates and kind of trying to bridge that, that is where I see the biggest issue. And it's usually conversations that have not been had right out of the gate. As I'm interviewing someone, in my opinion, this is my opinion solely, as I'm interviewing an associate, I would want to know what their 1 year expectation is, their 3 year expectation, their 5 year expectation, maybe even 10 year. What do they see themselves in 10 years? That might be a little out there ways. But if they say, I'm looking for partnership and you don't have a solution for that or an option for that, you're probably going to lose that person.
Yeah.
Or if you hear, I'm looking to be a partner in the business, there's a lot of questions, and I don't want to take this down to an 80-minute conversation, but that's where we kind of come in and help facilitate a lot of those things. But as practice owners, are you taking the initiative to be proactive and bridge that gap? Because if associates are not asking that question or sharing that information, then you won't know and you'll assume something, they'll assume something. And one of you will be wrong, if not both of you will be wrong, unfortunately. And that's where I see a lot of associates are lost when we could have accomplished, or you could have accomplished that solution, kept them, they can still be happy. They can get what they want. You can get what you want, and you can grow your business versus restarting the hamster wheel over and over again, trying to find a new associate.
Yeah, right. And you've got to be networking all the time. You've got to have a funnel of people in the hopper that are interested in potentially partnering with you. And you've got to bring your A game and have a recruiting deck. Lay out exactly what partnership means for them. I'm preaching to the choir here with you, Mark.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me that.
This is not news. But I think that a lot of people who come to us and ask, where am I going to get a great associate, are coming to us in more of a reactionary way because they haven't put the time into networking, staying connected with their peer groups and things like that. And those are things that you can just pick it up now. Like, now is the time to make that change, which is the great part of the opportunity, right?
100%. And I unfortunately see a lot of good owners lose good associates. And I've also seen a lot of good associates miss out on potential great opportunities to become partners in the business that they're working at today, or I guess I should say yesterday at this point, because they feel like the grass is greener, and it may or may not be, but there was an opportunity to bridge that gap and have that conversation and fulfill both of their needs. But it was never asked, and they waited too long, unfortunately. So it's just, like I said, the expectations are extremely important. That is something that, I mean, it may seem challenging for a lot of owners they're nervous about asking that question. I don't want to open up a can of worms. Well, if you don't open up the can of worms, then you just may lose the whole can to another
really
business.
necessary can.
It's like, exactly. And I hate to say that. And that's very common for us at Polaris or myself to come in and bridge that gap. If you know there's a need, you know there's interest because you've asked a question, you just don't know what the solution may be yet. And you don't know what makes the most sense for you as an owner, because you have to look out. Obviously, you build a business, it's your business. You need to look out for what makes sense for you as an owner, but also be conscious of what makes sense for them. Can I build something that's also advantageous for them? It satisfies their need. They're excited, and we can row together. And maybe I can have a few people rowing together that all benefit from this. And we're all successful, because it's much easier to have a few partners, with you leading the charge as the founding member in some cases, versus going it alone and trying to run a 60 location office one day potentially. So it's kind of our ultimate goal to bring the owner's vision. That's why I asked that question on your vision in line with both parties' expectation to drive that office or offices or group forward where both sides can benefit. So
makes perfect sense.
And everything's always a custom solution because it's specific to you. Once again, your vision, your mission, your situation, your future expectation, and bridging that gap. There's not a one size fits all for that. And if someone tells you otherwise, I'm going to say, talk to someone else. Sorry to say that, but that's my firm belief on that. Yeah.
That seems like a fair assessment. I mean, every practice is different. Every group is different. So every solution has to be completely custom according to what you're looking for.
Yep. I think that's it. And that's pretty much what I have to lay out, at a high level based on those questions, Jamie. I think that's all fair. I welcome anyone who's trying to answer these questions and are like, wow, I really need to dig further. Or yes, absolutely. Actually, we had this conversation. I'm just confused on where to take it next. give me a call. I'm more than happy to set up a consultative call, discuss things at a high level, see how it makes sense for you all, because it's a very important conversation. It's a very important decision. It can be impactful for your business in both directions, whether it's done correctly or incorrectly. So it's very important to have a trusted advisor that knows what they're doing with respect to partnerships, because there's a lot of ways this can go wrong. And unfortunately, I've seen that 2 or 3 years in, and it's harder to unwind, but there's always an opportunity. So more than happy to help any of you out or address anything. That's what I enjoy doing. So.
Well, good. Mark, always great to have you on the show. And thanks for helping our audience think through those things. There's a lot of different ways to look at that, whether you're the optimist or the pessimist. There's opportunity to look at it from the alternate side and come to a place of progress. That's the way I'll put it.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time, Jamie, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Well, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Mark?
Email, it's just mark@polarishealthcarepartners.com, or you can go to our website and submit a request for consultation. At that point, I get a lot of those on a weekly basis. So those are the two best ways to line up a call, and I warrant either way. So.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we covered quite a bit here today. And as you might have guessed, there's a lot more to consider, and we're here to support you. So go ahead and reach out if you want to learn about any of Polaris Expert Advisory Services, or maybe there's a topic we haven't covered that you'd like to hear about. You can send us an email to info@polarishealthcarepartners.com, or you can reach us by visiting our website at polarishealthcarepartners.com. You can click on the upper right-hand corner, just hit that contact us button, fill out the form, and we will be in touch usually within a couple of hours. So thanks so much for being a loyal listener and subscriber. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share this episode with a colleague, and be sure to leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you on the next episode of the Group Practice Accelerator Podcast.